for today, again, the topic, thank you so much all for coming. I know most of you are kind of off work and coming to here. It's really amazing to have us all gathering here to talk about potential opportunities, or even how to explore the opportunities in the Chinese market. And so here we are. We'll start with a brief introduction of each of our panelists here. And we'll start with Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Okay.
So Sandra, she is a partner and managing director of Spring Angels Capital. Also, she has a variety of experiences in financial services and accounting. And she also has multiple certified professional designations from CFA, CPA, CA, and an MBA in accounting degree from University of Toronto. We also got Sophie.
Hello, everyone.
So Sophie here. Sophie is a reporter with Mega Market. Prior to Mega Market, she was a Shanghai-based reporter with Yicai Media Group. So Yicai Jing, if you speak Chinese, you probably know that's a very famous finance report, finance journalism, covering venture capital and startups in China. We also get Eddie Li here. So Eddie is an executive partner and founder of First Financial Controller. He was an ex-executive of Acer Group. I guess that was the advance of technology of connecting. We also have, so Eddie, he has an MBA in Hong Kong and an MBA in supply chain from ETH, Swiss Federal Institution of Technology in Zurich. And lastly, we have Michael here. So, hi Michael.
Hi.
So Michael is the public relations manager at OTTPay Inc., which is Fangyuan Guoji, right?
Yeah, Fangyuan Guoji.
Fangyuan Guoji. Yeah. So with 11 years experiences in China, Michael is the go-to for innovative ways to bridge Canadians and Chinese. So yeah, they will all talk about themselves, their background, their career focus, their past experiences, just in a second. That was a very brief introduction of them. So without further ado, we will be starting asking questions for these four amazing panelists. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them down, or later in the Q&A session, feel free to raise your hand. But if you are an introvert, like me, feel free to just write them down and pass that to me. I'll read them to our panelists. Cool. So the first question, we will, I guess, start with Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the first question.
Oh, wow.
So could you please tell us a bit about your background and past experiences, and which industry you're from? Did you work in China before? What's your current career focus in Toronto?
Wow, okay, that's a lot of questions. I'll try to do it fast. A little bit of my background. After my studies, I went to work with Nortel Networks at a time when the stock was $120 per stock. Within 3 months, it was at 42 cents a stock. It was really, really a horrible experience. 50 of my colleagues and friends moved on to something else. I was the last one left on the floor. So I had a deep moment where I said, okay, I have to get out of here and travel. So I ended up going to China, and one of my issues was to find out what skills I could bring to somewhere else to be able to travel for a long term. I didn't want to do a week or two, so I ended up planning for 1 year in China, teaching English, of course, at my ripe old age of 25. So I'm from the education industry. It ended up being a little bit longer than 1 year. I stayed 11 years. Met my wife, had 2 children, bought my first apartment, my first car, got my first management position, director position there for a company that's very well known in China, WSE, Wall Street English. 华尔街英语. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm very proud because we worked really hard for that school. And then, okay, career focus in Toronto. Well, so obviously I've been back from China for since 2013, the end of 2013. And when I heard that there was a possibility of WeChat Pay and Alipay coming to Canada, I was begging for a job. Obviously, I was there when this started in China, and I saw the tremendous impact that it had on China. It basically went from cash, skipping credit, to WeChat Pay, Alipay. And I thought that Canadians deserve to know about this, deserve to have the ability to use it, and Chinese deserve to be able to come here and be able to use a method of payment that they're used to. When I first arrived in China, it was really difficult to find Interac. So anyways, that's, I think, yeah, not too long.
That was perfect.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
That's me.
Hello everyone, I'm Sophie and I'm originally from Shanghai, China, and moved here like one year ago. So I've been a financial journalist for more than 5 years in China, and covering corporate news and Chinese corporates and Chinese venture capital space. When I worked in China Business News, also called Yicai, Caijing, which is one of the largest financial media group. And then I became a Shanghai-based reporter with Merger Market, which is a London headquartered newswire and among financial communities. So basically we provide financial news like fundraising or IPO and merger acquisition for those investment banks, law firms and private equity firms. So now I continue to be the reporter with Merger Market, and I continue to following those Canadian tech companies.
Hi everyone, my name is Sandra, and I think Joy mentioned that I'm a partner and managing director at Spring Angels Capital. So a little bit about the fund. So this is a Toronto-based venture capital firm that invests globally in early-stage startups with an investment focus in artificial intelligence, high-tech in general, and entertainment. About my career, I guess. I started my career at Ernst & Young in China, doing external audit, financial advisory, due diligence, and then after that I came to Toronto to get my master's degree at University of Toronto, and then after that I started my career in Toronto. Firstly in investment banking at BMO Capital Markets, and then a private equity firm also in Toronto, and then most recently at a corporate development team focusing on strategic investments in a large financial institution also in Toronto. Yeah, that's basically it. I've been always like interested in learning about news and in startups in technology base, and actually initiated fintech venture. I was trying to initiate a big fintech venture firm in my previous company, but because it's relatively conservative of the company in their investment focus, so it didn't really fit well. But then right now at my current job, I'm able to do what I really enjoy, investing in technology startups.
So myself, Eddie, I hope that my face is not so old, but actually I have if we talk about China, I have 4 business relationship with China since 1986, 30 years ago. I'm the pioneer in Shenzhen, I set up the first building called International Shenzhen Guomao, Shenzhen Trade International Center, something like that. I built 5 restaurants over there at that time. By the time it's just opened the Shenzhen market at around less than 1 million people. Right now it's 15 million people over there, right? So this is the first time I've entered to China. Second time I worked for Acer. I helped Acer set up Acer China. I set up Acer head office in Beijing. At that time, Acer is from Taiwan, right? Just to let you know. Acer Computer. So I helped in year 2000, I think in 19 something area. And I set up an Acer Beijing for them. The third one, I'm a VC in Shanghai. I carry 350 million money doing venture capitalists in Shanghai. At that time, it's year 2000. So I'm also is the pioneer in Shanghai VC. At that time, there's only two VC at that time. The fourth one, I moved another, because I'm not making mistakes, but I moved in Acer Beijing head office to Shanghai. Okay, so and it's the fourth one. I did it somewhere around year 2005, something like that. So I have I pretty very close to China, but now I'm in Toronto. I run in my own company, helping different small and medium-sized company as acting like a director or a CFO or executive. But also, actually, I carry some director head with big corporations. I also have there's a business center in Markham, doing helping startup and new entrepreneur start the business in Markham. So this is what I'm doing right now.
Great. So that was great introduction for four of our panelists, and we will move on to the second question, which is, could you share one experience that you're most proud of from your past when you were in China, and why is it? We will figure out why eventually, but please share one experience with us.
Start the same way as before?
Yeah, or whoever wants to start first.
Okay, I proud of, I don't know, I just want to see the audience over here, right? So you want to go into China, right? So most of them want to know. So maybe I'm proud of course, I set up Acer China. But give you a little issue over there is it's too early to set up. Acer, if you are part of over there, but the difficulties is Acer is a Taiwan company, right? So imagine that, okay, it looks like it's a Taiwan company, it's not an American company, computers. So they have a local Lenovo over there. So Acer looks like that. Okay, who are you? Right? So where I changed the Acer name, I never drop down the Acer Chinese name to just put in Acer in that. Okay, instead of using the Chinese name called Hongji now. So that means that the people will feel that this is American company. Okay, or Western company. So this is one of the experience that we have to do it all the time. Right? So this is of course there are power of so many things, but this is one of the examples. Right? So
why do you think that's worth sharing with the audience here?
I think when you go into China, that you have to position yourself in a different way, right? So you're not thinking about you're thinking your product will work and go in there, but the culture is different, right? So they're looking in a different way. So a simple computer, right? Acer is one of the top two by the time when I'm managing. So even though that we have a very big problem going to China, because the difference is they not adopted you are not an American company, you are not Apple. At that time, there's no Apple, right? You are not HP, you are not Dell, right? And you are not Lenovo, right? So it's very difficult. So when you go in there, you have to think about how you positioning yourself, right, in your company. Yeah, go back.
Going back. Okay.
Yes.
Because can you repeat the question? Because I tried to.
Yeah. The question is, could you share just one experience in your past that you're most proud of, and why do you think that's worth sharing with the audience here?
Okay. About my past. Okay. I think that one thing that sorry, I was thinking about this as more like a macro, what I'm proud of China market instead of my own experiences. Yeah. Or can I pivot to that and talk about that as well?
Yeah, sure, or you can...
I can talk about both. I can talk about
Sure,
both.
yeah.
So for the China market, because for VC, we also, as I mentioned, we invested globally. So we actually have invested in some companies in China as well. And then we were seeing several trends. One is the fast-growing economy really brings a lot of opportunities in area like consumption or consumer upgrade. And then the large population really brings a lot of opportunities in area like entertainment. That's why we have invested in and also education. That's why we have invested in both. We have invested in animation production companies that produce animations for kids, and also education companies that provide online education courses for kids. I guess that's what our firm sees as the opportunities in Chinese market. Well, I guess another one was the population. The large population is now the aging problem is also a big thing. So we are investing globally for healthcare companies because we think that, well, I mean globally there's a huge market too, but then in China especially there will be huge application opportunities for that. Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if that answered the question correctly.
Definitely, yeah. And when you were talking about the aging problem, or as in a potential opportunity for, I guess, Toronto-based entrepreneurs to enter China eventually, if we're that kind of niche market, why eventually do you think that's worth to kind of sharing this topic?
Well, we invested in healthcare companies like medical devices companies in Canada and US. And I think one huge advantage of companies in Canada and US is the technology, and that's kind of also how you can protect your company when you try to enter China market. Because I think that if your company is purely based on business model, it's really hard to protect your company when you enter China market. Look at, for example, most recent case, Uber. It completely lost its battle to Didi. Not because, because it's really based on business model, and it's basically cannot scale as fast as Didi because they have their local advantage. So, but then things like healthcare, where you rely mostly on technology, and you can build your technology barrier that really can protect your company when you enter China market, if you really have good products.
Yeah. Awesome. That was a great answer to that.
And yeah, I wouldn't say proud of, but would want to share something impressive when I did some interview in China, because 3 years ago I interviewed some foreign entrepreneurs of startups in Shanghai, and I found them really exciting at the beginning because they found that as a newcomer they are really insightful in identifying some overlooked opportunities in China, and then they have a really good product, they have a really good plan, but after that they're kind of they're having to be faced with all kinds of tricky things, like how to deal with the government, how to deal with the changing policy and regulation, how to do marketing. And a guy from South Africa called Sebastian, I can't remember clearly, and he told me that it took him 6 months to get the approval of the Shanghai government to establish his own business, to get his business started, because they have to get a registration called ICP, which is the abbreviation of Internet Content Provider, and it only took him 2 weeks in Hong Kong to get all these approval. So different cities have different policies, regulations. So and that happened 3 to 4 years ago. So I think that the government should have some changes during these years. But I still want to say that if you're entering Chinese market, you should be prepared for the challenges, all those tricky things.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. And Mike?
I guess one of the things I'm actually most proud of is just having the courage to let go and head towards China in the first place. Now, the reason for that, though, is that it led me to a lot of very fantastic experiences. Namely, my claim to fame. I like to talk about this a little bit. But I was before she was the First Lady of China. I had the opportunity to teach Peng Yiyuan, who was an opera. She was only an opera singer back then, and a general in the army. And I didn't know who she was, and I gave her trouble about not finishing her homework, whatever. Then she told me I'm a general, then I was sweating, then I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, it's okay. So anyways, but my point is, it's a little bit like a Forrest Gump moment. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I'm very proud to have lived through that. And not that I think she was going to kill me or anything, but I'm very happy to have had the ability to just really go for it, let go a little bit, and really enjoy the ride. When I first arrived in China, I literally understood not a single word of Chinese, and I didn't know what I was getting in for. But I had a fantastic time. So a little bit to kind of segue a little bit with what they said. Sandra talked about Uber. Uber lost out because it wasn't in connection with WeChat, which Didi Dacher was. That's a huge part of it. And Uber didn't exactly lose out because they ended up investing in Didi. So they own, what is it, 49% or 20, whatever, a certain percentage of Didi Dacher. So they made it out fairly okay. But the point of that is, be ready to get into the Chinese market. Be ready to really kind of let go of everything you think you know, and just open yourself to learning everything. And please don't fear laughing at yourself a lot, because you're going to make a lot of stupid mistakes. That's really all I have to say. And I think it's important, because if you are going to do that, it's a fantastic time to do it. They're fantastic people, and wow, that's really all I got to say.
Great. Can I add a little bit to my answer?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot, I think I missed answer, was that why I'm proud of it. Well, I mean, as a fund, we don't do technology, right? We use the resources, including money, to help startups to make the society better. And then we are able to participate in these coming trends, like I mentioned before. And then we are able to help startups to catch the chain and to make the society better in every way they can. And I think that's something that always makes me proud.
That was great, I think, mix of answers from different perspectives, and from like a Canadian perspective, who was entering to China, and some local Chinese perspectives. And that was pretty nice. Anyway, just thought I'd cool. So the third question: what are some mutual competencies that you've seen on entrepreneurs with foreign experiences who entered Chinese market successfully? Please provide some examples if you can think of them.
I can talk about one company. I think last year there was a company, I think from Toronto, that we looked at, and then they are, so they're a Canadian team, but then they actually went to stay in Hong Kong for half a year because they really want to, well, maybe a little bit background about what the company does. It's a VR company, but then their focus of their product is to help to enhance the user experiences for e-commerce shopping, basically. So they spent half a year in Hong Kong trying to build strategic partnerships with Alibaba and JD.com. So I think they were able to build the strategic partnership with Jingdong.com, and that actually successfully doubled their valuation for their Series B financing. And that's very important. Well, one of the things that's very important is you have to find a very strong strategic partner if you want to enter China market. Yeah.
I think I can. Yes, the first entrepreneur I thought of is a guy from his name is Gao Tianchen in Chinese, but actually he was a businessman from South Africa, and now he is the founder of Naked Hub, which is called 有心股 in Chinese. And Naked Hub is now one of the most famous resort in China, based in Moganshan. Moganshan is a beautiful mountain with like 3 hours drive from Shanghai. And Gao and his wife is an architect, a Hong Kong-born architect. They founded Luoxingbu like 6 to 7 years ago, and now, they founded, and Gao could also speak Chinese very well, Chinese Mandarin very well. And at the beginning, the resorts are targeting the foreigners in China. So they bring a wilderness